Winning the lottery doesn't make you smarter. It just gives your worst decisions unlimited spending power. The moment the money hits their account, some people suddenly think they understand finance better than banks. Others believe the universe will handle the details as long as they spend aggressively enough. And then there are those who prove a very human truth: you can go broke faster than it takes to sign a lottery ticket. These aren't stories about bad luck. They're 30 real-life case studies showing one simple rule: money doesn't create new mistakes. It just puts the old ones on a much bigger stage. 1. Right after winning $16 million, this man decided to do what he thought was the most logical thing possible: buy a massive mansion in Florida. The house was so big you could have used Google Maps in the living room. High ceilings, huge windows, sunlight everywhere. Everything looked perfect, except the inside was completely empty. For months, he lived in over 8,000 square feet with no couch, no dining table, and no bed. Dinner was fast food, eaten on a folding lawn chair placed right in the middle of the living room, like a king camping inside his own castle. When asked why he hadn't bought furniture yet, he said he wanted to observe how the sunlight moved through the house first. It sounded philosophical. In reality, every dollar had gone into the shell of the house. While he admired the sunlight, the bills didn't wait. Property taxes, maintenance, and operating costs piled up fast. And by the time he decided it was finally time to buy a couch, the bank decided it was time to take the house. The mansion was foreclosed, proving once again that square footage is not a financial plan. 2. After winning the lottery, this man in Scotland decided to upgrade his life by buying a private island. On paper, it looked like paradise, remote, peaceful, completely disconnected from society. He imagined quiet mornings, ocean views, no emails, no neighbors, no stress. There was just one detail he discovered after signing the paperwork. The island had no electricity, no fresh water, no cell service, and no dock. That meant getting ashore required landing a boat directly onto rocks, with success depending heavily on luck. On his first trip out, he nearly destroyed his boat trying to land. On the second, he realized that living off the grid actually means doing manually what modern society quietly does for you every single day. After 2 years of desperately trying to love nature, he sold the island for less than the cost of repairing the boat. Locals nicknamed the place a floating mistake. 3. When this man won millions in Alabama, he didn't worry about investing or using a bank. What kept him awake at night was a very serious question: what if banks disappear? His solution was simple, bold, and deeply optimistic. He stuffed the cash into garbage bags and buried it in his backyard. No safe, no map, no notes, just complete faith in his own memory. Everything was fine until a few months later, when his spouse decided the yard needed improvement. Heavy equipment was rented, the ground was regraded, and the buried fortune was accidentally unearthed. Cash flew through the air like a music video. Neighborhood kids collected $100 bills from the grass with the kind of joy money was supposed to bring the owner. When interviewed on local news, the woman calmly said, "The Lord will provide," and he did for the neighbors. The rest of the money was never recovered, along with the belief that burying cash is a sound financial strategy. 4. After winning $5 million, this man in Ohio skipped the sports cars and went straight to something more reasonable, building a NASCAR-style racetrack in his front yard. His 12-acre property was quickly paved into a full racing loop where he and the guys could experience freedom at high speed. The problem was that the neighbors had not agreed to live next to a racetrack. Engines roared from morning to night, dust filled the air, and complaints arrived faster than his lap times. When confronted, he shrugged and said they should have known he was going to do something awesome. Local authorities disagreed. Lawsuits, fines, repair costs, and unpaid bills quickly piled up faster than he ever drove. His lawyer later summarized it best: his client believed money made him faster than the law. It didn't. 5. When this man won the lottery not once, but twice, people assumed he had learned something. First came $3 million, then another $1 million years later. The universe had clearly given him a second chance. He used it to buy more toys. The money turned into cars parties, nights he couldn't remember, and a very unique investment portfolio called jet skis. A lot of jet skis. According to him, it was an investment in positive vibes. In reality, it was an investment in fuel maintenance and depreciation at record speed. In less than a decade, both jackpots were gone. No vacation homes, no income-generating assets. Just memories, blurry photos, and a stack of receipts. Years later, reporters found him working at a convenience store selling lottery tickets. Few people understand the full life cycle of money better than someone who won twice and still lost to jet skis. 6. When this woman won $8 million in California, the first thing she felt wasn't excitement, it was anxiety. She worried about bad luck, about jinxing herself, about the universe, thinking she wasn't grateful enough. Her solution was simple: start tipping everyone. Not normal tipping, $100 tips. Drivers, waiters, her dentist, the mailman, anyone who crossed her path received cash. She believed positive energy needed to be fed with money. In the first year alone, nearly $700,000 quietly left her account under the category of protecting the vibe. Then one day, she met a man who introduced himself as a destiny coach. He promised to realign her financial energy field for a fee. She paid, a lot. By the time she realized her energy had been perfectly aligned straight into his offshore bank account, it was too late. The only thing that showed up afterward wasn't good fortune. It was a tax audit. Turns out the universe doesn't accept tips, but the IRS has an excellent memory. 7. Not every lottery winner wants to disappear, but this man in Michigan took it a step further and decided to vanish completely. After winning $4 million, he staged a perfect canoe accident, leaving behind clothes, a few vague clues, and a wife who was suddenly a widow on paper. Family mourned. Taxes assumed he was gone for good. Meanwhile, he moved states, changed his name, and started a new life as a humble woodworker. The plan worked beautifully until he started enjoying his success a little too much. One night at a bar, a few drinks in, he proudly told the woman he was dating that she was sitting next to a lottery ghost. She didn't laugh. She Googled. The police showed up faster than his fake death ever did. His wife, previously very convincing in her grief, returned with a lawsuit for emotional damages. The judge summed it up perfectly. You can fake your death, but you can't fake intelligence. 8. For this married couple in Nevada, it all started romantically. After winning $12 million, they celebrated their new life by buying matching Lamborghinis. Technically matching. His was neon green. Hers was hot pink. That's when the marriage shifted into reverse. Just months later, they were in divorce court arguing over who got which car. According to him, green represented power. According to her, pink symbolized victory. Their lawyer sat between two grown adults with millions of dollars listening to a debate about color theory that sounded like a failed group therapy session. In the end, both Lamborghinis were sold to cover legal fees. The irony was that during the trial, the cars lost even more value because one of them kept revving the engine in the courthouse parking lot. The lawyer later said it was the only divorce he'd ever handled where the assets depreciated during the case. Love may conquer all, but it clearly can't survive 700 horsepower and two matching egos. 9. Some lottery winners keep it quiet, some tell their family, but this man in Oregon decided to share his wealth with the entire human race. After winning $2 million, he announced a new truth: money isn't real, only energy is. To prove it, he started giving away cash to anyone standing in front of him. He hosted vibe exchange events where strangers lined up like it was a festival. No questions, no plan, no limits. He believed that when money left his hands with the right mindset, the universe would return it in another form. The universe listened very carefully, then did absolutely nothing. Within a month, his account was empty. The giveaways stopped. The crowd disappeared even faster than it had arrived. 3 months later, he was spotted living in a van, still impressively optimistic. When asked if he had any regrets, he said he'd never felt freer. Then he admitted one thing: freedom is great, but air conditioning is still nice. 10. In Arizona, where there's more sand than water and temperatures hot enough to cook lunch on a car hood, an 82-year-old woman won $1.5 million and bought a neon yellow jet ski. Not for the ocean. The ocean was nearly 200 miles away. She bought it for inspiration. The jet ski sat proudly in her driveway like a declaration of personal freedom. She even bought a life jacket and occasionally wore it around the house, just in case inspiration struck suddenly. Neighbors asked where she planned to ride it. She said that didn't matter. It reminded her she could leave any time. The truth was, she never did. The jet ski never touched water. It just sat there year after year, baking in the sun, a shiny symbol of a journey that never started. When her grandson suggested selling it, she refused. Some things aren't bought to be used. They're bought to prove you're allowed to dream, even when geography strongly disagrees. 11. Some lottery winners think about security. This man in Texas thought a little further back in time and decided he wanted to live like a medieval king. After pocketing $10 million, he skipped security cameras and guards and ordered a literal moat dug around his house, complete with a drawbridge keep-out signs and a few plastic alligators for atmosphere. The problem was that his castle sat right into the middle of an HOA neighborhood where people argue over fence height. Within a week, lawsuits arrived faster than his drawbridge could lower. Neighbors didn't see a knight defending his kingdom. They saw a very convenient hole filled with water. 3 local kids turned the moat into a swimming pool, showing up with floaties and sunscreen. The city demanded the moat be filled, the HOA demanded the landscaping be restored, and his medieval fantasy ended after exactly 23 days. The castle vibes disappeared. The moat was flattened, and he was left with a modern lesson. Money can buy imagination, but it can't buy approval from your neighbors. 12. For this woman, winning $3 million didn't feel like pure joy. It came with a very specific fear: what if the ticket was cursed? On the same day she found out she'd won, her phone died. To her, this wasn't coincidence. It was a sign from the universe. Instead of calling an accountant, she hired a self-proclaimed lottery energy alignment specialist. He arrived with incense bells, mystical chanting, and a very convincing YouTube channel. The ritual took place in her kitchen. The ticket sat in the center of the table, surrounded by smoke and whispered affirmations. No one expected the sacred flame to catch the curtains. The small fire was put out quickly. The ticket survived. The kitchen didn't. Repair bills ran into the thousands. When she finally cashed the ticket, she declared she had beaten the curse. What she didn't mention was that the victory had already been reduced by smoke water, and a costly reminder that superstition is never free. 13. When this man in Kentucky won the lottery, he didn't want to open a normal restaurant because food, in his words, makes people too dependent on material things. Instead, he launched a spiritual dining experience where guests didn't eat with their mouths, but with their inner awareness. The restaurant had tables, candles, soft lighting, well-dressed servers, and very real prices. The only unusual feature was that there was no kitchen, no food. Guests were instructed to sit, breathe deeply, and mentally manifest the meal they desired. Meanwhile, the owner DJ'd 1980s yacht rock to support the energy flow. Customer reactions were remarkably consistent. People left hungry and confused. Online reviews called it the most starving meal of my life. After 2 months, the restaurant closed. The owner admitted customers weren't ready to pay for emptiness. The only thing ever served in full was existential regret. 14. Not every lottery winner dreams of a bigger house. This woman in Oregon aimed higher and decided she wanted to own an entire town. With $30 million in hand, she found a nearly abandoned mining settlement in Nevada, except for 8 residents who still lived there, because they hadn't left. The deal looked smooth on paper, and she immediately envisioned a new community named after herself. Problems began when she mailed the residents not a welcome letter, but eviction notices along with a colorful brochure outlining the town's bright future. The 8 remaining residents didn't find that future appealing. They hired lawyers, a lot of lawyers. Lawsuits followed, media attention exploded, and the project collapsed before the town sign could be replaced. The population sign stayed the same, with one handwritten addition: not for sale. The lesson was simple. Money can buy land, but it can't buy consent from people who already call it home. 15. The idea came to this man in New Jersey at the exact moment he decided money should be celebrated in a truly unforgettable way. After winning the lottery, he planned the biggest parade of his life, featuring over 300 clowns, floats, massive balloons, and fireworks shaped like his own face. It wasn't a birthday. It wasn't a holiday. It was just a Tuesday. He spent nearly $2 million hiring performers' music costumes and props, but forgot one tiny detail: city permits. The parade started colorfully and ended quickly when police arrived, and a giant balloon tangled with power lines, knocking out electricity for several blocks. Local news called it the day the circus came and wouldn't leave. Asked if he regretted it, he said happiness was priceless. The city disagreed and priced it at over $180,000 in fines. In the end, all that remained were a few photos, a stack of bills, and the reminder that joy does not come with legal immunity. 16. Not every lottery winner tries to avoid taxes. This woman in California decided to do the opposite and tip the IRS. When tax season arrived, she mailed in her return with a handwritten note explaining that she was keeping the change along with an extra $50,000 as a thank you. The IRS was confused and sent the money back. She didn't give up. She mailed it again with a note saying she genuinely wanted to share her good fortune. On the 3rd attempt, the IRS sent an official letter, polite but firm, stating that they do not accept tips in any form. She framed the letter and hung it in her home like a moral trophy. 2 years later, she received an audit notice. Turns out the IRS doesn't accept tips, but they have an excellent memory. The additional tax bill taught her a harsh truth: the government has no add gratuity button, and kindness is not tax deductible. At least she still had the framed letter to remember that she once tried to be generous to a system with no emotions. 17. The startup idea from this man in Colorado began with genuine emotion. after winning $6 million, he wanted to do something meaningful, so he founded a pet wellness company. And to show his absolute love, officially registered his golden retriever Max as the CEO. Max had his own company stamp signed documents with a paw print and ran board meetings by barking when addressed. At first, everyone assumed it was a marketing stunt. That changed when the bank realized the company's account was legally under Max's name. The bank and the IRS immediately lost their sense of humor. The account was frozen on the spot. The owner protested, claiming species discrimination. The law responded simply, dogs cannot manage finances. The company collapsed shortly after. Max was unaffected, continuing to live comfortably, take naps on schedule, and chase his tail with more efficiency than most executives. It may be the only case in corporate history where the CEO walked away clean and the human learned the expensive lesson. 18. In Canada, where winters are cold enough to make every idea sound worse, a lottery winner decided to invest in history. Specifically, he built a nearly full-scale replica of the Titanic in his backyard in Alberta. According to him, it was both an artistic statement and a potential tourist attraction. The ship featured fake smokestacks, decorative lifeboats, and even an iceberg-shaped pool float. Neighbors assumed it was a joke. City officials assumed it was a zoning issue. Before anyone could stop it, heavy rains arrived. Water flooded the yard, turning it into a lake, and the Titanic replica began recreating history in the most unfortunate way possible. The ship didn't fully sink, but it flooded enough to create an accidental reenactment. The media showed up. His marriage did not survive. After the cleanup, he admitted that some historical events are better remembered than rebuilt, especially in a backyard. 19. 2 weeks after winning $5 million in Florida, this woman panicked over one missing item, her wallet. Inside were her cards, documents, and the fragile sense of security that comes with sudden wealth. Instead of calling the bank to freeze her accounts, she chose what felt logical to her and hired a psychic. The psychic claimed the wallet was trapped in a realm of unmanifested energy and required spiritual cleansing for a fee of $300,000. She paid without hesitation. The ritual was intense, involving candles, crystals, and very expensive-sounding language. Only one thing failed to appear: the wallet. Days later, police found it in the glove compartment of her own car. Asked how she felt, she said the universe had taught her patience. The officer quietly added a bonus lesson about checking your vehicle before consulting destiny. The wallet returned. The $300,000 traveled to another dimension. 20. When this man in Nevada won $9 million, he didn't think about stocks or real estate. He thought bigger, much bigger. He wanted to invest interplanetarily by buying property on the moon. A very convincing seller provided maps, coordinates, certificates, and assurances that this was the asset of the future. He wired $250,000 and received a nicely printed certificate in Comic Sans declaring him the owner of lunar land. He framed it, hung it in his office, and referred to himself as a visionary investor. When NASA confirmed that private ownership of the moon is not a thing, he argued that was exactly what they wanted people to believe. The certificate never gained value. The moon never paid rent. The only thing that launched successfully was a lesson in gullibility. In the end, he didn't conquer space, but he did prove that when money meets unchecked imagination, gravity stops working very quickly. 21. Some people hate paying taxes. This man in North Carolina decided to eliminate the problem entirely. After winning $15 million, he bought 20 acres of land and formally declared it an independent nation, modestly named the Republic of Me. He designed a flag, printed passports, wrote a constitution, and even sent letters to the United Nations requesting official recognition. In his logic, being a sovereign country meant he didn't owe taxes to anyone. When local authorities showed up over building violations, he informed them that they were trespassing on foreign soil. The officer didn't debate philosophy and simply handed him a citation. Reality, as usual, was less impressed than the dream of sovereignty. A few months later, the country was repossessed for unpaid property taxes totaling over $80,000. No war was fought, no exile followed, just a foreclosure notice and a folded flag. It may have been the shortest-lived nation in modern history and clear proof that you can't escape taxes by renaming your backyard. 22. For this woman in Florida, winning $2 million wasn't a sign of wealth. It was a message from the universe that it was time to prepare for marriage. The only issue was that there was no groom, no problem. She decided to manifest matrimony by purchasing 100 wedding dresses in advance. Each dress represented a possibility. Princess gowns, minimalist styles, lace mermaid cuts. Her house quickly became a haunted bridal museum with mannequins in white staring silently at the future. She even hosted practice weddings, asking friends to stand in as grooms, once the role was filled by her mailman. Years passed. Marriage did not arrive. She eventually auctioned off the dresses online in an event with a very bold name. The profits didn't come close to covering therapy costs. In the end, she remained single, but extremely experienced. The lesson was simple. The universe may hear you, but it is under no obligation to deliver a groom in your size. 23. Some lottery winners buy stocks, some buy real estate. This man in the UK chose to invest in the future as directly as possible time travel. He believed that if he went far enough into the past, he could optimize his personal timeline and multiply his wealth. The idea sounded ambitious until he met the scientist willing to take the job. For $300,000, he was shown a detailed plan drawn entirely in crayon. The time machine lived in a garage complete with fog flashing lights and an industrial fan for dramatic effect. When asked about progress, the scientist claimed the machine already worked, but the results simply couldn't be seen yet. The explanation was accepted with impressive openness. Time passed. He stayed exactly where he was. No future version ever returned to confirm success. Only his money disappeared following very predictable laws of physics. When later asked if he regretted it, he said that if he ever vanished, it would prove the project worked. He didn't vanish. The $300,000 did. 24. In Kansas, after winning the lottery, this couple decided that normal pets were boring. They wanted something more exciting, more educational, and significantly louder. So they turned their suburban home into a backyard wildlife sanctuary. Llamas, parrots, miniature pigs, a camel, and even a kangaroo began appearing. They named it Lucky Acres, convinced the animals would bring good fortune. What they failed to consider were food costs, care requirements, and the fact that animals do not respect fence boundaries. Their neighbors cared deeply. The breaking point came when a kangaroo escaped and was found standing outside a nearby donut shop, showing intense interest in pastries. Authorities intervened quickly. Lucky Acres was shut down for safety and health violations. The couple admitted they had no idea animals ate that much. The kangaroo, according to local legend, remains the most memorable customer that Donut Shop has ever had. 25. Every year, this man in Illinois believed he had upgraded to a new version of himself. And like any major update, he wanted to document it with a life-sized statue of himself. The first statue showed him humble holding a lottery ticket. The second had arms crossed and confident posture. The third was shirtless, riding a horse staring into the distance like history was waiting. Each statue cost around $50,000, and each year the garage grew tighter. By year 5, it looked like a wax museum dedicated entirely to one man's ego. Visitors didn't ask how he was doing. They asked which statue was the newest release. When his girlfriend broke up with him, he responded by commissioning another statue. This one looked sorrowful, hand over heart, titled Betrayal. Neighbors called it 6 Reasons to Move. Local art critics called it a deep metaphor for financial ego inflation. He simply believed next year's version would be even better, assuming the garage could survive it. 26. For this woman in Texas, winning $7 million wasn't the start of a new life. It was a chance to fix the past. Specifically to bring back her beloved cat who had passed away in 2004. She contacted a biotechnology company that sounded very scientific, operated out of a small strip mall, and promised soul-level duplication. She paid $250,000, sent in DNA samples, and waited for a miracle. Months later, she received an animal that looked like a cat. If you squinted hard enough and believed strongly, it was smaller, longer, and carried the general energy of a ferret. The company explained that genetics can't recreate personality and that souls are flexible concepts. She named it Maybe Whiskers and tried to love it the same way. The animal was uninterested. It chewed furniture, didn't recognize her, and deeply hated wearing sweaters, despite her insistence on dressing it for photos. Eventually, she accepted that she'd spent $250,000 to learn how to love uncertainty. She's currently writing a memoir tentatively titled One Life, 9 Mistakes. 27. When this man in Maine won $3.4 million, he decided to spend it on an experience. Specifically an abandoned Victorian hotel that locals swore was haunted. He didn't see ghosts as a problem. He saw them as a selling point. He bought the property and listed it on Airbnb with a very honest description: may contain spirits, cheap rates, guests poured in, flickering lights, midnight whispers, sudden cold spots, all marketed as paranormal features. 5-star reviews rolled in until one guest asked why every room smelled damp and strange. He replied that it was the scent of history. History, it turned out, was mold. The fire marshal arrived and found no ghosts, just rotting walls, water damage, and serious respiratory hazards waiting to happen. The hotel was shut down immediately for dangerous entities also known as black mold. He announced plans to pivot to ghost tours, which was the first time in this project he focused on something that actually existed. 28. In Wisconsin, this couple believed they had discovered the perfect investment model right after winning the lottery. Not stocks, not real estate, hot tubs. They spent over $2 million buying 200 jacuzzis, convinced that everyone wants to relax. The first problem was buying them all before figuring out who to sell them to. The second problem was storage. So the entire collection was stacked across their backyard, creating an outdoor museum of unchecked optimism. 3 years passed. No marketing, no pricing, no customers, just rain, snow, and 200 hot tubs slowly aging into regret. Neighbors called it the jacuzzi graveyard. The HOA called it aesthetic terrorism. Eventually, the couple sold the entire lot to a local spa store for so little it didn't even cover transportation costs. The husband later said at least they stayed warm while going broke. It was the most positive sentence ever spoken among 200 unused hot tubs. 29. The idea came to this man in Las Vegas on a very confident morning. Why go to a casino when you can bring the casino to the people? After winning $5 million, he bought an old van and converted it into a fully mobile gambling operation. Flashing lights, slot machines, a mini poker table, and even a bouncer mannequin guarding the door. He parked right outside major casinos, advertised better odds, and believed this was pure entrepreneurial spirit. Curious customers stepped inside. Drinks were poured. Money changed hands. Everything felt exciting until the police became just as curious as the gamblers. Within a week, the mobile casino was shut down, the van was seized, and he was charged with illegal gambling and additional public safety violations. In court, he explained that he was simply bringing entertainment closer to the community. The judge replied that he had also brought several felonies. In the end, the only thing that stayed mobile was his file in the legal system. 30. Some people celebrate winning the lottery with family photos. This 26-year-old man in Las Vegas chose a more permanent memory. He tattooed his bank balance directly onto his forehead. The number $2,700,000 was inked large and clearly meant to remind himself to stay humble. His friends were confused. The tattoo artist was thrilled. Over the next 6 months, he lived exactly like that number suggested. Parties, gambling, shopping, and a series of financial decisions that moved faster than math. Then taxes arrived, then debts. Then the money disappeared faster than the tattoo ink had dried. When his balance dropped close to zero, he returned to the tattoo shop for an update. The number was converted into a simple 0, with a small quote added underneath to fill the space. The artist called it a piece about early maturity. He called it the most expensive lesson of his life. The takeaway was clear: if you're going to tattoo your assets on your face, pick something less volatile, like your blood type. So what did we learn? Money doesn't turn you into someone else. It just gives your bad ideas a much bigger budget. Out of all these stories, who deserves the gold medal for burning cash the fastest? The guy who started his own country? The man who bought the moon? Or the one who tattooed his bank balance on his forehead? Pick one and comfort yourself with this simple thought. At least today, you didn't do anything that stupid.